All right, today's topic when it comes to federalism is going to revolve around money. What are the driving forces in American politics? So we're talking about fiscal federalism. When we talk about fiscal federalism, we're referring to the working between state and national governments where money is involved. And most of that money comes in the form of grants. And a grant is exactly what it sounds like. It's a pool of money given to the states from the federal government with varying degrees of strings attached to them. Why does the federal government even do this? Well, a couple reasons. Number one, it reduces the growth of the federal bureaucracy. You don't need as many bureaucrats at the federal level if you're passing money and responsibility onto the states. Take a few people to write the checks and let the states carry out all the work. Number two, it gives states and local governments needed revenue. States need money. Look at the state of California. We've been in financial crisis for a long time, and federal money has been very helpful to us. Third reason behind federal grants, they establish minimum federal standards in important areas. That's where we get air quality and water quality. And then finally, it equalizes resources among rich and poor states. So these grants, as part of our federal budget, have grown over time. The dollar amount keeps rising year after year. There has been variation, though, in the percentage of federal expenditures that are dedicated to grants. That kind of comes and goes depending on the type of administration that we have in the White House. Okay, now let's talk about some specific types of grants. First off is a block grant, and that is a grant for a collection of general programs. A block grant is something that you're going to give the states a chunk of money for transportation. It gives the states a lot more freedom in how they spend it, so it is a very much a states' rights type of thing. The Republican Party favors block grants. Categorical grants are far more specific. They are for specific program. It is for bilingual education. It is for textbooks. It is for low-income housing. It is for building airports. So it's very specific. And they're often called formula grants because what happens is the national government agrees to pay a large percentage of the funding for a project in exchange for the state governments doing exactly what the federal government wants them to do. The Democratic Party favors this because this is a more of a centralist approach to sharing money. Revenue sharing comes and goes. It only happens when we have federal surpluses. We're usually running federal deficits right now, so it's not something in our modern politics. But what it comes down to is when there's extra money, the states just are shared a portion of that from the federal government. Now, a specific component of this federal-state relationship is something called a mandate. These are defined as federal orders that are imposed upon the state. And I want to give you a few examples. I'm just going to name them, and then what I want you guys to do is to look into them and kind of bring them to class tomorrow so we can discuss further. There are things like the Americans with Disabilities Act, the Clean Air Act, the Clean Water Act, the Individuals with Disabilities in Education Act, and then also you have No Child Left Behind. These are examples of mandates, and I'd like you to pick one or two or a few of those and get some more information on that to bring into class tomorrow. Now, the purpose of a mandate is to set a federal standard and to have a goal set by the federal government and to make it so that the states meet that goal. And what the states have happen to them is they are punished if they do not meet the mandate. They are seen as losing of money or resources. Federal government will say, we expect you to meet this standard, and if you do not, then you will lose funding. Now, there's a lot of impact on the states. There's financial burden, especially when you have unfunded mandates. What happens with an unfunded mandate is the federal government says, do this, and figure out how to pay for it. So there's tons of financial burden. The states don't like the heavy-handedness of the federal government telling them what to do. States feel like they are blackmailed. If they don't follow a program, they might get punished for something completely unrelated to it. And then also, the states feel like they are victims of an alteration of federalism, that there isn't a unified power here and shared power, but it is the national government trying to rise above the states. Now, in our politics, Democrats are more in favor of mandates. It's more of that nationalist approach, centralist authority, and Republicans are opposed to mandates. And you saw that when the Republicans took over Congress for the first time in over 45 years in the mid-1990s, this happened, they had a real push to end mandates. They tried to structure out unfunded mandates from the government, and Republicans, as they've been in control of Congress, have really tried to reduce the use of federal mandates in this country.